Hi, my name is Fabiola Butcher. I'm an associate professor in the communication department, and I'd like to share with you my Clear Action research project. This project came out of taking a face-to-face class and turning it asynchronously. So I'm going to begin with a brief introduction, then the literature review that I had, and then the intervention that I made, what the impacts were in student learning, and then a brief conclusion. So as I mentioned, I wanted to take a face-to-face class. I took my COM-B7 organizational class that I traditionally taught face-to-face and created an asynchronous modality. But I found that student engagement was probably lacking. In this class, they take a lot of assessments, and so I didn't find that students' comments with those assessments, if I got comments, were very thoughtful or well interpreted. So that gave me the impetus to put together my research question, which is posed as, how will requesting reflection comments to be submitted in addition to completing a course activity, like an assessment, affect the success of student engagement in my asynchronous courses? The literature supported that self-assessments are useful. Seifert and Felix in 2018 found that self-assessment and peer assessments are strategies employed to encourage students to take more responsibility for their learning process. And that's got to be a plus, where students are held more responsible for their learning. Ventesta in 2018 as well found self-assessment is the most suitable assessment method to correspond with the needs of self-regulated learners. And to a certain degree, online students need to be self-regulated. A third research by Yang, Chen, Flanagan, and Ogata found that results indicate that students who frequently took online assessments after class tended to achieve higher exam scores than those who did not. All positive results. My intervention was to take two self-assessments, one in the early part of a 16-week term and one in the middle, and gather their comments anonymously. Then take those comments and give them a qualitative analysis, ranking them from poor, fair, to good. So in week 2, I took the assessment titled, Is Telecommuting Right for You? Some of the sample questions on this assessment, as you can see, they simply ask for a yes or no answer. Do you like to interact socially with fellow workers? Do you prefer to avoid work-related commutes, etc.? They simply had to answer yes or no, and then there was a comment section for them to interpret their scores, and this is what I found. Here are some sample responses. A poor response sounded like this. They simply answered the question. I agree with the results. Fair, they answered it and gave some insight, but good, they answered it, gave insight, and really got thoughtful comments included. My results for week 2 were as follows. 21% of the comments that I looked at were poor. 55%, so slightly over half, were fair, and 24% were good. In week 8, I looked at a different assessment. It also asked yes or no questions, and this one was titled, how good are you at, how good are your presentation skills? And a sample question was, I start and end my presentations on time. I determine in advance what information I can leave out or summarize, etc. They simply had to agree or disagree. And those results, I found the responses getting a little bit better, but poor was still very brief and to the point, where good was, again, very much more insightful, and you could tell that students were engaging not just with the assessment, but with themselves, that self-reflection. And sure enough, the results were improving. Now only 12% of those comments were poor, 61% were considered fair, and 27% were considered good. So I took the comparisons, week 2 in blue, week 8 in green, and the poor results went down by the 8th week, 9%. The fair responses improved 6%, and the good responses improved 3% in comparing the 2 weeks. So I was pleased with those results. My conclusions then, self-evaluation is an important aspect of the learning experience, and it can be done online. Second, self-evaluation can lead to students taking more responsibility for their learning, like that first research study had proven. and that self-evaluation can lead to students enhancing their critical thinking skills. By those more and thoughtful comments, you can tell that they were doing more critical thinking, which is part of the mission statement of Bakersfield College. And lastly, if I write better and more clear, consistent instructions, I can get better results. But honestly, lastly, I want to thank those that helped me get here. I want to thank Dr. Alex Rocky, Dr. Bill Mosley, my mentor, Kalina Hill, and my cohort of peers that with their comments and sharing of struggles and triumphs and their questions, I was able to become a better teacher. Thank you.